All right, so those of you who are in Tennessee, guess what? House Bill 2689 is getting ready to pass. That is requiring paternity tests before you sign the birth certificate. Because, you know, when people do paternity tests, 1/3 of the time, they end up not being the father. And if they start testing everybody, that number can only go up, not down. It's going to be dramatic. And right now they're starting to also add in things like, you know, maternity fraud is a crime, and a punishable crime. So guys used to go to jail for not paying child support on a child that wasn't theirs, because the state wants to get their money, because if there is no father to pay for the child support, somebody has to pay for it, so they push it onto the nearest person that could be a father figure. And they're actually starting to jail time the ladies for maternity fraud, because it is such a rampant crime. And yes, it's a crime.
So look like some of these politicians starting to get a little bit of balls here, passing something like this, which is definitely unprecedented at this point, because I'd never heard of this. And I know a lot of guys, a lot of these videos I cover, we talk about this, fellas, about women being punished for paternity fraud because they're just using this, and there is no real punishment that goes for these false allegations. Just talked about another situation just in divorce, family court, whatever have you, because this is a family court issue, but is becoming a criminal issue by locking your ass up and putting you in jail based off a woman saying that. And it's a lot of dudes that have to go through this red tape. And like he said, a third of them, like in terms of the child support, when they do take the test, the chance of you being the father is just crazy. That's just how often these clubs are getting shot up. And these women are blaming it on a certain guy, and it's not the case. And a lot of you guys who are watching this may have been victim of that. I read countless stories of this stuff. And women they can do it because they don't, nothing's going to happen to them. Even though, like I said, the power of a woman being scorned supersedes all logic. She just wants to see a man hurt. But she'll gladly spread her legs open to any Tom, Dick, and Harry and let him squirt. And it's crazy. And you guys are stuck having to deal with it. And a lot of these guys are being put on child support for kids that aren't theirs. So yes, this should be mandatory everywhere. It'll save a lot of time with the state, a lot of funding. And as he said, somebody has to pay for it if you can't find the father. And the state has been footing the bill for far too long. I just did a story recently that you guys probably remember about the guy who he was separated from his ex-wife, and she got pregnant while they were separated before their divorce. And even though the state proved that he wasn't the father and it was established paternity with this other man she was sleeping with, he was still financially liable for child support for this child. And obviously this woman had a say-so in it, but they felt because he was the better provider, he was stuck with paying for a child because they were legally married.
Joseph Shamilar is a divorced dad of two. Not even 9 months after the split, Joe got some shocking news from his boys.
They got in the car and they were bouncing up and down, you know, telling me that mom has a new baby. And I said, well, is she babysitting? Is she, is she looking after someone?
So you didn't think it was real?
No, I had no idea.
His ex-wife had given birth. She had gotten pregnant during their separation by another man. Legally, she was still married to Joe. Court papers clearly acknowledge the baby is not Joe's, but Albert Bush's, and that Bush had established a personal, financial, or custodial relationship with the child. The court ordered medical expenses be split between the biological parents. But the Friday before Father's Day, Joe got a letter in the mail from friend of the court.
I thought, my God, this is hilarious. It's Father's Day weekend, and here's the biggest joke that I think I've ever had played on me transpiring right now.
The letter said he owed $8,500 in back child support plus medical expenses for a baby his ex-wife had with another man.
How fair is that? What is wrong with ladies? Why do y'all do stuff like this? Especially if you don't know who's that baby's daddy. But they say a lot of times women do know who that baby's daddy is. But if you know, why would you do this to this man? Because it's embarrassing for you, believe it or not. It's super embarrassing. You would think. Obviously, back then, a few decades ago, we didn't have the technology we have now. But with us having the technology, you're still doing this stuff. man, it'll definitely destroy some men, especially these amounts for some men who are really trying to do right. The amount that they are being hit with is just heinous to take care of a child, especially when you find out it isn't yours. There was another story I did about this guy in Detroit. Never met the woman, but he was placed on child support. He had to go through all these channels to clear his name, and the woman refused to come forward when it came time. So basically, he wasted his time, resources to fight this stuff, looking crazy, and nothing happens to her. A woman can just find a man's name, address, and say that's the father. This is in Detroit, if I'm not mistaken, in Michigan. And as I said, Michigan has some crazy laws in itself. But for you to push this through is just crazy to me. For a man that you never even slept with. This woman was a stripper, and they just pushed it through like it was nothing. And he could have lost his wife, lost his job, the amount of money that he was supposed to pay. And his wife, imagine your wife finding out something like this, and you're telling her, unless she really trusts you. I'm pretty sure she was hesitant until the truth finally came out, that this woman came up saying that, yes, your husband is the father of my child. And him having to go through this process, and her standing next to him, and him telling her, I don't even know this woman, I've never cheated on you, blah blah blah. And her just like, well, why would she do this? So I think kudos to Tennessee, kudos to Tennessee's lawmakers. A lot of other states need to definitely start following suit before your name is put on the birth certificate. Make sure. I think I covered a story in Jamaica where it's a huge issue, especially when it comes to applying for visa or citizenship when moving. You having to establish paternity. And a third, so 2/3 of the times the men are not the father, and only a third of the time they're the father. There's a lot of cheek clapping and dudes squirting left and right. This is unbelievable, ladies. Like, a lot of dudes resort to some crazy things, deletions, all types of stuff when they discover this stuff. Imagine taking care of a child. And that's why I like covering these stories, because it's so crazy. And you think that when a man loses it and goes off, and especially when you discover multiple kids aren't yours, bro, what is really going on here? You definitely want to snap at this point, man. But I don't know. House Bill 2689, he had maternity fraud as a crime. I'm assuming he means paternity fraud. Yeah, it is what it is, but shout out, man. I can't wait to see this. I know a lot of you can't either. Let me know what you guys think, though. Comment below. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Hit me up on Linktree to book a one-on-one with yours truly. Purchase all my books, merch, t-shirts. Helps to support the channel. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. With that being said, much blessings and abundance. Stick around for the next video that's going to pop up on the screen below. That's where I'm going to see you guys at. It's your favorite everything. This is Wisdom. I'm out of here. Peace.
Yeah. 50 Cent. 50. Part 2. Bring it back. Yeah. Can't forget Tony. 50. UK.